Hey guys! Welcome to this week's vlog. I am extra comfy and cozy this week. I think every week I add like a new layer of comfort. So still my sweats and then a blanket and of course a cup of coffee. My Yoga For You mug. So today we are going to be talking about courage. And this is one that I feel really strongly about. I get really passionate about this topic. So as you know, I just record these and I don't edit. I don't do anything except unless Mila comes and walks by and knocks my camera over, which has happened before. That's the only thing I'll edit out. So, courage. I get really heated about this topic because I don't understand why we are so afraid of everything. And what I mainly don't understand is why we are so afraid to be ourselves. Why are we so afraid to show the world who we are and what we have to offer and what is beautiful and wonderful about us? I say I don't understand it, but what I mean is I don't understand it now. I used to really understand it because fear was something that I let hold me back from pretty much everything. Courage is it's not living without fear, but it's living through your fear. So not letting that fear hold you back. It's about living your life and having the strength to live it as you and not letting that fear hold you back. So before I started this whole journey and before I even started really teaching yoga or doing any of that, I was living my life for others. I was living my life in a way that I thought people wanted me to, so I took jobs that I thought people wanted me to. I dressed the way that I thought people wanted me to dress. I spoke in a way that I thought I should, and part of that, I guess, is just age, and we won't even go into middle school and high school, right? Because that's just like a whole nother beast. But we'll say starting in college, I really started to live the way that I thought others wanted me to live. And so I wasn't myself, and I was so afraid that someone would actually get to see me and get to know me for who I am. And so I had these secret passions for yoga and for mindfulness, and I really wasn't that interested in college and the college life and the culture, and that just wasn't really my thing. But I was too afraid to let people see that. I wanted to fit in. It was as if the scariest thing and the worst thing in the world that could happen is that someone would have seen who I really was and would have known, what a fraud I was, and that I wasn't actually what I was portraying myself to be. So, and I think that's a trap that a lot of us get stuck in. And so I definitely got stuck in that being a young girl at the time. And I was just although I've always been very stubborn, I was very fearful and very scared, and I just wanted to fit in and go with the status quo, even though I was very much not the status quo. So then I started to explore yoga, and I started to do a lot of kind of self-discovery. And after I graduated college, I did my 200-hour teacher training, but then I took a job in management, first in retail, then in management, and it was a good job, it was a big job, and then, as you know, a lot of you already know this story, but then when my husband, not husband then, but husband now, when he got into medical school and I found out I was going to be moving from the Minneapolis area to rural Missouri, I thought that my life was over, and I was, driving through what I now know is kind of like, the main drag. But I was driving down that street and I was like, what am I going to do for work? What am I going to do here? And I looked to my left, and Long John Silver's says, "Now hiring managers." And I just cried. I straight up just started sobbing, and I was like, I have this job in management, and I have all these people that work for me, and I have a budget of millions of dollars, and I'm going to come to this place, and my management career is going to be boiled down to managing a Long John Silver's, which, one, was very judgy of me, and not a great thing to think, and two, super dramatic. That was so dramatic. And then I cried, and then we drove back, and all of Iowa was just like silent and awkward. And anyways, I promise there's a point to that story. So when I finally moved, I had this moment of, should I move? Should I stay? Should I, what path is my path? And I got this very strong answer that going to Missouri was my path. And I didn't have a job, and I left everything, and I moved. I was unemployed. And for like the first time ever in my adult life, I just didn't really have a job, and I didn't really know what to do. And, those of you that know me, I'm a doer. So I didn't handle that very well. But I decided after a few days that I was going to be there for what I thought was 2 years. I could either have a terrible 2 years, and I could ride it out, and I could wait and just basically do my time for 2 years and then head off to the next thing. Or I could stop letting fear hold me back, and I was going to give my life everything that I had and have the courage to finally live and do what I wanted to do as myself. And to me, the answer was obvious. It was scary, but it was obvious. And if I was only going to be in this place for 2 years, I was going to make it the most meaningful 2 years and the most powerful 2 years and the scariest 2 years of my life. So I decided that I was going to start teaching yoga, and I wanted to make it my job. I wanted to make it my career. So I started, and I was doing all these other little odd jobs. I was babysitting. At one point I was like managing a gym, which really meant I was just like going in there at night and like scrubbing the toilets. Just to get the bills paid, and then I had these few, yoga classes sprinkled out here and there, and then it started to grow, and then I started to take on private clients, and throughout this whole process, I thought, the fear kept creeping back in, and it kept creeping in and saying, you're not good enough. What if they find out who you really are? What if you, allow yourself to be vulnerable, and, what if you fail? What if you're not accepted? What if you're not welcome? And every time that voice crept in, I had the courage to keep living my life in the midst of that fear. It definitely was there. But to me, courage is living through it. And so I kept doing more, and I kept learning more, and I kept putting myself out there more, and I finally started living as myself and sharing myself instead of trying to be someone that I wasn't. I didn't try to be that stereotypical yogi. I didn't try to be anything that I wasn't. I just shared myself. And it was the most amazing and powerful thing that I have ever done in my whole life, because I had the courage to share who I truly was with other people. And it was really well accepted. Not everyone accepted it, that's fine. Not everyone thought my new career path was a good one, that's fine. But to me, it was the most satisfying thing to finally start living for me and to have the courage to do so. And I think that allowing myself to do that did help to inspire others to then follow their courageous path and be okay with being themselves, even if it was just on this tiny little level. And so the reason that I get so heated about courage is because now that I've gone through this path and I look at who I was and I look at the people around me and I think, what are we so afraid of? What is this big secret that we have inside of us that we're afraid that if someone sees the real us, they're going to know? And to me, it boils down to that big secret is we don't want people to know that we're human. We don't want people to know that we're perfect, or that we're not perfect. We don't want people to know who we truly are, because if we open up that vulnerability and we say, here's this thing, this is me, this is all that it is, and I give it to someone, what if they don't like it? What if they give it back? That's so scary. But the more that I think about it and the more that I reflect on it, really the only person that I truly need to accept this thing, who I am is myself. And anyone else who does that is just a bonus, and that's great. But to me, if I'm living this fulfilled life and I am living in a way that I find to be courageous and strong and honest, is one in which I live in a way that fulfills me. And one where when I go to bed at night and I take out my contacts and I look in the mirror, I look at someone who I know. And I look at someone, I know who she stands for. I know what she believes. And I know that she lived her path courageously and honestly today. And that I can do that every day. And if I go to bed at night and I don't feel that way, it gives me a moment of pause to reflect and maybe see where I went astray on that. And so I feel like courage is so hard, and it's something that we really struggle with just as a society, because the courage to be yourself is one of the hardest things to have in life, and it's also one of the scariest things that you can possibly do. But if you do it, it is one of the most amazing and satisfying things. And I also think that celebrating the courage of those that have decided to live a life as them is one of the most beautiful things that we can do. So instead of looking at those people that are maybe a little bit different but are certainly authentic and being, they're a little different. No, celebrate their authenticity. Celebrate that they are living their life in a way that is really important and meaningful and true to them. And that's, to me, that's beautiful. And so I challenge you to kind of look at maybe where we're letting fear hold us back in our life and where we don't have that courage to be ourselves or to do whatever it is. And remember that courage isn't getting rid of fear, but it's still living in spite of that fear. And how can we kind of walk that path of being courageous and honest and true to yourself? So if you have any thoughts, feel free to share them with them. I know you guys always do. I'd be interested to hear what you think about courage, and that's just kind of my take on it. And kind of a book that I just read that I really liked, Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown. You guys know I love her. But she talks a lot about the courage to stand alone and the courage to live life as yourself. And so that's one, if you haven't read it, it's a quick read, but you'll really enjoy it. I'll link to it in the notes below. So I hope that you found these thoughts thought-provoking, and it gave you a little bit of insight into courage. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.